guys, how are we doing? Um, okay, this is interesting. Poor camera. Oh my goodness. Um, I'm just gonna turn down Honey's TV because I'm actually got it on there as well, and I will be back in 2 seconds. Okay. Right. Ta-da! There we go. All good to go. Right, so today's live. I wanted to do this live. I've wanted to do it for a while. Sorry about the camera and stuff. It's a very old camera. And I'm actually on Bertha. So if I disappear, I will be back in 5 minutes. I will jump onto Tony's PC and use his because we all know that Bertha is temperamental at the best of times. Okay, so this live I was supposed to do yesterday. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that. I ended up having a conversation with my son in Australia instead. So, yeah, that kind of took over and was a more important thing. So, so here I am today instead. What I want to do today is I want to answer some of the questions that I've seen new growers have, and other people have been growing certain types of veg or fruit over the last few years and not been having much luck with it, and see if we can't get some answers to the questions that everybody has been asking and the cries for help and stuff like this. So, if you are watching, please say hello. I am watching chat. Ta-da! And feel free to jump in at any time because I'm happy to answer your questions if you've got them right now. That would be really helpful. And yeah, I do have my little guest over here. This is Angel Pants the Unpredictable. She is our cat. She is my companion animal. She is very true to her name. And she's just sitting there waiting to pounce or something. I don't know, but she's just sitting there watching it. So, I wanted to start off by talking about compost to start with. Now, here in the UK, as of next year, we're not going to be allowed to be using peat compost. And so a lot of companies have been coming out with peat-free compost that has been made from council pickups and stuff like that from the green bins, and it's been made very quickly and it hasn't had time to really settle properly, and it's been chucked into bags and thrown to the shops, and people are like, as we were last year, this year we went through about 7 different types of compost. We wanted to try all sorts of different ones, and we were finding big bits of plastic. In one bag, I found a 2-inch piece of glass. There was all sorts of stuff in there. But what we did find, because we'd actually bought a couple of bags the year before and put them in the shed. Now, what we did find, because a lot of the compost, when you open it up, lots of twiggy bits, or the big chunky bits, not stuff that's broken down properly. It hasn't had a chance to adjust, to break itself down, to do the things that it needs to do. And so, it doesn't quite work the way that we want it to. It's not quite user-friendly at that point. It does do its job to a point, but you find you have to put more feed in with it because it's not yet had the chance to break down. It's either been broken down too hot or it hasn't got up to temperature yet. And if we were making our own compost, of course, we'd be keeping a better eye on that and have more control over it. But if you're like us and unable to make compost where you are, then it's quite important that you find out what composter works for you. Now, what we did find was with the bags that we had saved from the year before, even though we had some brand new bags of the exact same stuff, the stuff that had been in the shed over the winter, was actually a lot better quality. And because it had had that extra time to do its breaking down, etc., and we found that we had a lot better results with those couple of bags of compost rather than breaking them open, the ones that we bought from the same place, the same brand, the year later. So what I would suggest, if you're going to be buying the new compost, is putting a few bags aside and leaving it a year, or adding it to your compost. If you can add it to your compost, add it to your compost, and do it that way. But do have a look through it first. Get any bits of glass or plastic or anything like that out of it. Because, like I said, it has come from the green bins, a lot of it from council pickups. So it does tend to be a wee bit, chunky and grotty in places. And we don't want that. No, we don't. We don't want that. Okay, so that's kind of what I want to say as far as the compost goes. There's obviously different ways of handling it and stuff like that. And if you do find yourself in a situation where you can't have a compost bin and you can't do your own compost, then one of the things that we do when it comes down to the kitchen scraps is that I put them all through a blender and then I stick them in a bucket out the back and let them ferment. So you get this kind of, and it doesn't smell and it does not go moldy because it's a fermentation process. And the fermentation process produces some really good bacteria and stuff that is really good for the soil. And so we put a couple of spoons of that into a pot when we're putting things on into their forever big kid pots, right? What I call a big kid pot. We don't put it in the baby pots, in the seedling pots, when we're putting in the seeds, but we do put it in their forever pots. So that's another thing that you can do to help the process if that's what you want to be doing. We just keep the bucket underneath our garden table. At the moment, it's empty. It wouldn't be much good us putting it out there anyway, because it would just get filled up at the moment, and that would be a bad thing with the stormwater, because we would lose all the nutrients that we created from it. And to be honest, trying to get it to ferment in 0 to -3 degrees temperatures is not one of the easiest things that we can find ourselves to do. So, there we go. That answered that, I think. If you guys have got any more questions about compost, please chuck them in the chat, because I have it on live chat and I would love to hear from you and see what your opinions are, or if you've tried any of them or any of that kind of thing. I would dearly love to hear from you. I really, really would. So, okay. What else we got? Another compost thing. I actually, we do a lot of our garden shopping over at the local supermarket Morrison's, which in the car park has a garden centre from spring to the end of summer. Okay, so the main growing season, it has a garden centre that takes up probably 10 car park spaces, and they put out little trees and all the plants and they have all the things. Now the guy who runs it is a friend of Tammy's, and so occasionally we get to go and talk to him and see if he's got anything he might be, getting rid of, if they've got any offers on, that kind of thing. So we kind of make friends with the guy who runs it, and that's a good thing. Okay, so you get to know the guys that you're buying stuff from, because you never know, right? One thing he did say though, that he didn't actually like their compost because it was full of white stuff and he felt like he had to chuck it away. So I actually said to him, I think you might want to second guess that and not do that again, because what you're actually throwing away in that compost, which is a really good compost, their own compost, which comes in an orange and white bag, is actually really not bad at all. And what I have found is theirs is full of mycorrhizal fungi, which is really, really good for your garden. And if you've got a load of mushrooms that pop up every year in your lawn or in your garden and you don't expect them or whatever, that's because your soil is full of these mycorrhizal fungi. Okay, that is great. That means that your soil is absolutely amazing. And the fact that they've actually got bags of compost that are full of this stuff is incredible. Doesn't mean you can eat the mushroom. Okay? I know Terry Pratchett once upon a time said all mushrooms are edible, but he also said some of them are only edible once. And you've got to remember that, okay? Because we don't want to have any accidents. If you don't know what it is, don't eat it. That's all I'm saying. Do eat it. So yeah, the compost bags that you tend to find in the supermarkets, just be a little bit careful with them. He actually kicked himself when I told him what it was. He was like, what? Oh my god, I can't believe I was such an idiot. Blah blah blah. I've chucked away about 10 bags of this stuff. So he won't be doing that anymore because obviously he now knows that it's mycorrhizal fungi and nothing to be worried about. It's not mold. Mold is slightly different when it comes into the top of soil. You'll usually find that it's that it's not really molds unless it's on plants. But you can tell the difference between mold and the fungus. The fungus is just like a white, it's like white little thing that pops across the top of the soil or in the soil or whatever. Whereas mold will become furry. I want to say furry. Pardon me. And very white stuff on the soil is not necessarily good. But you can tell the difference. And if it looks like the stuff that you find in the fridge that's taking something off and walking away with it, that's the stuff you don't want. So, yeah, there you go. So that's the white stuff that's in the compost bags. And my thoughts on the new compost that we're having to purchase at the moment due to the restrictions on peat-based compost, which, you know, we've all used it. It's just, you know, now we can't, and that's a good thing as far as the ecosystem for the peat beds and stuff like that are concerned. So we don't want them to be destroyed. They've been there for millennia, and you know, they're slowly being eroded to nothing because of the need for, or the want for people to have peat-based compost. So, there we go. That colour doesn't work. Okay, I've got one of the pens. Okay, let me see. Alright, so one thing that I've seen from especially new growers is that the plants are bolting. Everything's about to say they're unable to like get a decent harvest and stuff of what they're getting because everything's on seed and stuff like that. You usually find that that's the case when there are, when you plant something that's a little bit out of season. Okay, so things like chard and spinach, if you plant those in April and May, you'll probably find that they really run to seed, and that's because they'll have that initial bolt of heat, and they think, oh, this is really cool. I need to get chili and produce more of me because it's sunny and I can do that. And you don't want them to do that because you need to eat them. Now, I do grow spinach and chard in the spring. I have been able to do that lately. And mine does bolt, but I get the smaller leaves, and I prefer the smaller leaves to the big ones, so it's not a major issue to me. And if I do see them running to seed, what I do is I usually chop that top off, so it'll last a little bit longer. Just a little bit longer. But check your packets. Make sure that in your area, and check your weather as well, and make sure that you're growing the seeds in the time that they're meant to be grown. Just because it's supposed to be grown 2 months earlier inside and you decide to throw them outside 2 months later, you're probably going to find that they will run to seed if you pop them outside at that point. Yeah, which is always fun. So be very careful of that. Also, if you end up with a heat wave that you weren't expecting, like say in the middle of May, all of a sudden there's huge temperatures you weren't expecting, in the spring leading into summer, because, June, July, August tend to be the hottest months over here in the UK, whereas it would be December, January, February, if you're down in Australia, they're your hottest months down there. So, be aware of your growing periods and what it's like, what your weather's like. Keep an eye on it. Have a diary. Write it all down. So then you can see for the next year what your climate's like. Where we live, we have a microclimate. When it's snowing, 5 minutes walk out of town, there's been no snow here. Tanya's just been driving back from Durham, which is 2 hours drive away, and there's snow on the moors, but there is no snow here. And I'm watching it right now, out the window. No snow, just rain. We don't even have a snow warning for here, because we're in a valley. Now, where I used to live in Devon, so I used to live in Bucklaston in Devon, it was also what we used to call the anti-snow globe. It was right on the edge of the moors. You could literally walk for 2 minutes outside of town and be knee-deep in the snow, and there'd be nothing in town. This is because it had its own microclimate being down below the moors level, and inside that little bubble of valley, which kept it warmer. All the hot air, the warmer temperatures stayed down where they were. So when we did get snow, we really got a lot of snow, but if we got a lot of snow, that meant everywhere else, they couldn't see the tops of their cars. So, which is a bit like it happened here the last couple, in the last week. We got an inch of snow, and 10 minutes out of town, they couldn't see the tops of their cars. So, that you've got to look at your own microclimate and know where you are. I mean, even within that town, there are microclimates. Please excuse that. That's the new roof. So yeah, looking at that and understanding that even in your own garden, you could have a microclimate compared to everywhere else, depending on how it's set up, what area, what direction it's set up in, whether it's walled, whether you've got trees around it, whether you don't have any cover, whether you do have any cover, all of that kind of stuff actually creates a microclimate. You know, when we put a greenhouse or a polytunnel, we create that small microclimate within that space as well, which means that during winter we can grow crops that we may not be able to normally grow. And so that's why I will be on weekends really starting growing things like spinach and chard. Then I've decided I'm going to do it over this winter so that we've actually got some greens. And yeah, that'll be a cool thing. Joy. I love it. Yeah, that's it. I don't know. Just stay here for a minute and have a go. I hope it stops. Oh, yeah, it stopped. Okay, so there you go. Double check your plants and make sure that on the seed packet you're reading exactly what it's telling you to read. Not necessarily, you know, what you think or what everybody else is doing, because your situation could be very different to theirs. One thing that I've noticed from moving up as far north as I am now in York from Devon is that we're about 2 to 3 weeks behind, even up to a month behind Devon when it comes to growing and our last frost dates, etc. Um, so be very aware of that. Especially when you move to a new place, is you've got to learn everything that you need to know about all of it. Um, so yeah, there you go. That's why some cat spots kicking up platinum at the right time. Okay, so alright. Okay. So this is one that I wanted to address because the last time I was at the garden centre at Morrison's, I overheard a couple. And I've actually seen this particular cry from in a couple of different groups and stuff like that from people who have bought fruit trees or nut trees or trees of any description from garden centres or supermarkets or whatever, and like, oh yeah, I want an apple tree, or oh yeah, I want a peach tree, or I want to grow this, or I want to grow that, and they haven't really done their research, and they're expecting the tree to fruit right then and there, or at the very least the next year. Now, a lot of trees, when it comes down to fruit and nut trees, take at least 5 to 7 years, some of them even 10 years, before they will produce their first fruit. And those trees that you were buying from the garden centres, unless they actually are 10-year trees, which they'll be about 6 to 8 feet tall, you know, they will be quite young, even if they're grafted on. So understanding that and being patient with the trees that you have, some is really, really important. I was absolutely blown away last year that we actually got flowers on the olive tree. I was completely blown away by that. And it was our own lack of looking after it, which is why we didn't get the fruit coming. Olive trees themselves, they take about a gallon of water a day in the summer when they are fruiting at that size. Ours is around 6 feet tall, and it is been clipped to be standard, which I'm not really that happy about because I don't like standard trees. But I got this one because it was literally thrown around by this couple, because it had a bend in the middle, and I just thought, that's it, I'm buying that one. And Tammy's like, why are you buying this? Because they've just discarded it because it's not straight. And he just looked at me and he was like, there's no helping you, is there? I'm like, no. Because you didn't throw me away because I'm not quite straight. You know, I've got a bend in the middle, I've got a few lumps and bumps I shouldn't have, and I walk a bit funny, but you didn't, toss me on the fire pit, Them over there just literally picked up this tree and threw it to the side so we could get to the one that's absolutely perfectly straight. So I had to take it home. I had to bring it home. And we brought it home. And he rolled his eyes at me like he does every time that I go shopping anywhere near the garden centre. He just rolls his eyes. And he's just like, oh God, here we go. Because I will always find the plants that are the ones with no label, that I kind of figured out what they are, but I don't know exactly. The ones that are thrown to the corner, the ones that are in the reduced section, or they've been had their prices put down because of they're not looking quite as pretty as the other ones. So I always go for them. And they've never to this day let me down. Not one of them. So that's understanding that the trees you are buying will take probably several years to actually fruit, and you'll be very lucky to have any at all. As you guys saw with if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, over the last 12 months, you will have known that I have a yellow plum tree. Now, because of how cold the spring was, and it flowered early, I hand pollinated it with my paintbrush. And I did that over a space of 2 weeks. There were hundreds of fruit on it. Many of them fell off, whether that was damage from wind, because Europe is incredibly windy place, or it just didn't get enough sun or enough water, I don't know. But a lot of the fruit just fell to the ground when it was about that big. Not even that big, but about that. They're little green pellets, and they were about that big, and they all landed on the ground. But we got 3. We got 3 little yellow golden plums, and they were the sweetest, most amazing plums in the whole wide world, because we'd grown them from this tree that just looked like it was half dead when I picked it up last year. So, and it actually gave us a plum last year, 1 plum last year. So we got 3 of them. That's 300% more than we got last year. So I'm pretty chuffed with that. So next year, hopefully, we'll get 9. So it's having patience with your trees and understanding that patio trees are actually not patio trees as well. Yes, you can bonsai them and you can cut the root ball down and you can do all of that, but every year they need to be put in a bigger pot. Every year they need to be fed, and you need to continually feed them when they're being in fruit, or as soon as they start to flower, you need to start feeding them. You need to make sure that they're getting what they need, because if you're putting them in the compost that only has 3 months worth of food in it, you're not going to get fruit or nuts at the end of it. They either need to be in the ground, or you need to be feeding them and topping up that feeding every couple of weeks, or even every week while they're fruiting. Obviously, during winter, just leave them be. Leave them be. Just want to be left alone. You want to sleep. The other thing I will say is well, is that when it comes down to stone fruit, especially peaches, as much as you want to have that tree outside, don't. Don't. The chances are you will end up with leaf curl, especially if you're living in the UK, because you have a very high rainfall and it will kill your pine eventually. We ended up with leaf curl this year on our peach. We ended up having to stick in polytunnel to protect it. We did all of the things. We did it garlic wash. We did all of the things that we were told to do. It was coming good, and then it rained and it went bad again. So we had to take it into the polytunnel to protect it. So knowing that you have an indoor protected space, when you have things like peaches, nectarines, plums, anything like that may need that, might be apricots, because we've got apricot tree as well. Just do what you have to do, but don't just bring things home because it's pretty at the time, because it won't always work. And having that little bit of, protection is really important as well. So all our trees right now, are in the polytunnel. Every single one of them. Everything that is in a pot that is a tree or a shrub is in the polytunnel. The only things that aren't are the golden raspberry, the loganberry, the blueberry, and the goji, because they're fine to be outside and they can carry on that way. And the other trees won't come back out till all the winds come down to the late spring. But we may open up the polytunnel for a couple of hours each day during the spring on the not so windy days, so that pollinators can go in, and we might have hand pollinated in. Oh well, no biggie. It's no biggie. But please do start to research. If you're looking at having fruit trees or anything like that, do your research. It's really important to do your research. If you don't do your research, you're going to get disappointed. And you're going to expect things that aren't going to happen. This is the issue. None of the labels on my trees say that it could take a couple of years to grow into fruit. Not one of them says that. Not one of them says you may only get 2 fruit. They don't have a lot of care instructions on them. So the best thing that you can do is actually go and do your own research. You might have already bought a plant and you're wondering what the hell is going on with it. Well, it might just be a baby and need a few years. Peaches tend to grow on second or third year wood, not first year growth. And it's something to remember, because they don't tend to do what you think they're going to do. Nature never does what you think it's going to do, because that's nature, and it's just the way of things. So, yeah, just be aware of that. And just because you think a thing, or it doesn't say it on the label, doesn't mean it's a thing. So I think it's really, really important that you do research, especially when it comes to having fruit trees and pots and containers and stuff like that. Container gardening is really, really not so difficult, as long as you do research first and you do all of that stuff. It's quite important to do all of that. Oh, wow. So yeah, there you go. Research is key, and patience. Patience. You right there, missus? Oh, it's having a stretch, is it? What you up to? What you up to? Did you want to come up and say hello? Come on then. Oh, hello. Look at you. Hello. Are you going to say hello? Hello. Hello. Say hello. The lovely Peppers. You going to say hello to the Peppers? Yes? No? Maybe? Perhaps? Yes, no, maybe, perhaps. Oh, you just want cuddles. You're getting cold, are you? That's what it is. She's just getting cold. Hey. Hey, cuddles. Yeah. So I don't know if you can see it very well. I've got the little lights on. Maybe I should put the big light on. It's getting a bit darker in here now. That's a bit weird. Right. Not that weird. It's just got dark outside. Okay. Give me 2 seconds, guys. I'm just going to turn on the light. All right. Come on then. Ooh. Okay. There we go. Ta-da! There we are. Got the big light in it. Hello. Did you do one better? Yes. So, for those of you who don't know, this is Angel. Well, Angel Pants the Unpredictable. So she can be very unpredictable. She's a rescue cat. We got her, or I got her in 2013. She was 8 then. And she's a mardy old woman. A bit like a mum, really. And chat. Yeah. Yeah. She is. She is a mardy old woman. And she doesn't like 5-year-old girls with red hair. Both my friends who had 5-year-old girls with red hair ended up getting attacked by her around the face. So, at some point in her past, a red-haired little girl, or boy, I don't know, because I haven't seen any boys around her, have upset her enough that she will attack all of them. Which is quite sad, really, when you think about it. But, you know, here's what tears. Anywho. And she does purr quite loudly. I don't know if you guys can hear that. But she is quite loud. When she gets her purr on, she does get quite loud when she's got her purr on. When she's got her purr on. Hey. You can let me down? No, you just want cuddle. Okay. Beautiful cuddle. So yeah, it's like anything. I mean, you don't get a pet without doing some research and finding out everything there is to know. It's not just about getting a cat box and, you know, making sure she's got an unlimited supply of boxes to play in. It's all about, you know, all the other things that can go wrong and the other things that are good for her. And especially if you get a rescue, you want to make sure that you've got all the information that you can get. Which is the same with plants. If you have rescue plants, you want to make sure that you can look after them properly in every way you possibly can. You know, just to bring them back so that they can do their thing. How you doing? Oh my goodness, her purr. Seriously, Uber purrs. So yeah. So if you are going to buy trees or try and grow trees of your own, please do your research first. Anyone who wants to know anything, be very look, just come and ask. I'm more than happy to talk to you about stuff. I used to have an orchard. Yeah. Some of the trees were older trees. It was a half-acre orchard, and it had apple trees, pear trees, quince. It had a mango tree. It had apricots. It had peaches. It had plums. And some of the trees were up to 50 years old, and some of them I was growing and cultivating new trees and stuff like that, where we were living at the time. And the other thing to remember when you're planting trees is it is an investment in your future. It is not like growing a seed for veg or something. Any perennial type plant is an investment in the future. It's not a for now, right now thing. And if what you want is right now, you're better off growing just small plants. I mean, just, something like a blueberry or a strawberry or something like that. Even strawberries and blueberries, they are a investment plant. The strawberry patch that you've seen me show very, very often in my videos, and also the new plants that we've got off that now, they started off as two ratty 10p plants, have been chucked to the back of a reduced section at Poundland, and they were half dead. Plants were half dead. The first year we got them, we made that little bed out of half a pallet. Tony made the bed out of half a pallet, and they grew 20 plants between them off the two. All the plants that we have are off those two, and they were only from last year. We bought them last year. When I say that they're triffids, they're triffids. So if you're growing strawberries, you need to allow them room to grow at least 4 to 5 plants each, maybe more when you're putting them in to grow. If you don't give them that space, or don't have that space, they're not going to do so well. So this year, so far, I've put up 42 runners. This morning I found 2 more pots, which I'm not sure how they got there because I haven't done any work, but Taddy put 2 more that he found in. Each runner that I found in those pots this morning actually had 3 or 4 runner plants on them, on each runner. Not just one plant, 2 or 3 of them. So that means 3 more pots are required. And some of the runners have actually gone into the grass again. All the runners that I popped up already and I've potted up, I found had already grown into the grass. Yeah. It's quite a lot of plants actually to just find growing in your grass. So there are probably another 30 or 40 plants waiting to be potted up in there that I need to get onto, but I probably won't be able to do that until maybe the weekend when this weather comes down again. Because the 60-foot tree in front of across the road behind the house in front is doing this right now. A storm barrow has just hit at about 1 o'clock this afternoon. Yeah. I have to say though, the sky is a really strange colour. It's kind of that yellowy goldy colour that's just really, really weird. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's something odd going on when you look at the sky and it's that colour. You know there's something odd going on. I do know that when it goes green, there's sleet coming or hail, and I mean proper hail, like big chunks like that, because that's the colour it used to go in Queensland just before hailstorms, big hailstorm. But this colour is more of a goldy colour. Strange, very, very strange. Anyway. So, yeah, if you're going to get trees for pots on your patios or in your communal gardens or whatever, understand that you're not going to get fruit off them for maybe 3, 4, 5 years after you bought them. Maybe up to 7 years after you bought them. Because number one, you won't know how old the tree is. You don't know how old the grass is. You don't know how old any of it is. You don't know if it's rooted before. You don't know what's condition it's been kept in. And, these are all things that you need to take into consideration. And trees, in general, take anywhere between 5, 7, and 10 years to fruit from seed. So just be aware of that when you're buying trees and give them the patience they need. Look after them. I mean, most of my trees, they do their own thing. They're fine. They can do their own thing. They're quite happy doing their own thing. In fact, some of the trees that I have that are standards, I'm going to be looking at grafting some of their new growth this year further down the stem, so they're actually going to be a little bit more stable on the stem. I'm kind of trying to undo the standardization of the trees. I'm hoping this will work. Again, it's something that's going to take time and it's going to take effort, and we're going to have to try it and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I'm going to try, because standard trees in a windy environment doesn't work. It really doesn't. It's bad for the tree. It frustrates you because you have to keep going out there and putting them back up on their, back up on themselves, because they keep falling over. So, partly that's a plot issue as well. If you're going to grow patio trees or trees in containers, please. Okay then. It's the cat. It's okay. We don't have a poltergeist. It's fine. Yeah. So that's the thing. I completely lost my train of thought now. Oh gosh. I completely lost my train of thought now. Right, pots. You want to make sure that they're not severely tapered at the bottom when you're putting trees or shrubs in pots or containers. You want to make sure that they're fairly standard sized up and down, to give them the ballast that they need when it comes to wind. Unfortunately, the containers that we have found for some of our trees have been severely tapered at the bottom. Quite finished. And that has helped with the whole them toppling over every time there's a gust of wind. So this year we're going to be looking for more straight walled, bigger containers for them. We may be buying the trug variety again with the handles on the side, which is going to make life easier for us when we do finally move. You left the kitchen door open. You left the draft in. What are you doing? You can't shut the door behind you. What's going on? Well, no, you can wait, because I've got to go and shut the door now, because you're letting the cold draft in. Oof. Come on. Just. Come on. Come on. Oof. Excuse me for that. You right? You coming up? What you doing? Oh, meow. Come on then. Are you coming up? What are you looking at me in that tone of voice for? You coming up? Meow. Come on. Yes. So containers for trees. If you can find the blue barrels you know, the blue plastic barrels that you see some of the guys with the allotments with. There's a place around you that you can find them. If you can find like a cake factory, I think a lot of them have, I think, get a lot of syrup in them or oil in those, like cooking oil and stuff like those in the big blue barrels. If I can find some of those, I'd have a few and cut them in half and then put the trees in those, because they are fairly well sided and they're not tapered off too much to cause issues with ballast and stuff. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the physics, isn't it? And if you've got as high a top with a lower base, it's all going to topple over due to, you know, the physics of the thing. Hey. Hey. So yeah, if you are going to do that kind of thing, try and have containers that have got straighter sides than the tapered ones. I know they can be a bit more expensive, but I'm going to be looking a lot more on places like Facebook Marketplace and Freecycle and places like that. There's some IBC tanks on Facebook Marketplace, but obviously we don't have IBC tanks yet. I mean, we do. We want one out front, but because it would help with the watering and the polytunnel and stuff. But unfortunately, it's just not something that's possible right now. So we're still having to fill up watering cans from the kitchen and take them outside, and to do the whole lot. When it's summer and we have to do the whole lot. The polytunnel itself takes 10 watering cans, so it's 100 litres of water a day. The front bed, we tend not to do it unless it's been unless we're in height of summer and there's been no rain at all for several days, and the plants are starting to they need help. Because they're in the ground, we try and keep them as happy as they are in the ground without fiddling with them too much. But when it comes down to the containers, that's slightly different thing. So we have to water them on a daily basis. Now we try and do that in the morning, where possible. We really do. And in summer we open up the polytunnel so that it's got plenty of airflow. But days like today, we don't want that airflow going through there. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think we've pretty much covered all of those. So that's why your fruit trees never fruited, because you never gave them the time they needed to actually do it. Again, it's all about research. Read. And if you can't read, watch other people's videos. There's loads of videos out there on growing fruit trees and how long they take and all of that kind of thing. And I'm going to be doing more of that as I go, because I want people to grow more trees. We need trees. And having edible trees at your disposal is awesome. Of course, in places, if you are in council properties and stuff like that, you're limited because you're not technically supposed to grow trees. However, if you can keep your tree as a shrub, you can get away with it. It has to stay as a shrub. Some allotments don't allow you to grow trees. I'm aware of that. So again, you would have to keep it as a shrub. But it's all to do with containers and what you're going to do with the containers, how you're going to set them up, how you're going to do all of the things. It's, research and watch hundreds of videos. Take what one person says, and if one person does it differently and you think, actually that clicks with me, do it. Do it. At the end of the day, growing in containers, growing with anything at all, is trial and error. Some years are going to be better than others. Some years are going to be better than others. Some years are going to be absolute shite. This year, for a lot of people, this year here was absolutely awful, and it people so badly, you know. We had people who wanted to give up because their tomatoes got blight. Our tomatoes got blight. Everyone we know, their tomatoes on some level or another got blight. And yet they were protected. Ours were protected. They were all in the polytunnel this year. There was no reason for them to get blight, but they got blight. And we did everything that we could in removing the infected leaves and fruit, and they were still producing, and we were trying to get them to do it, and they were really, really growing great ones, and then the blight just took them all off. It happened, but the year before, we had so many tomatoes we didn't know what to do with them, and at the end of the season, we ended up with 25 kilos of green tomatoes from the plant bed of 5 plants. So, and we're still eating the stuff I made from that, by the way. That's how much we got so much. But it's just so much. So some years will be good, some years will be shite. But that's nature, and that's growing, and that's gardening. And you take the rough with the smooth, and you try again the next year. And you try again with something else. One of the things that I did notice this year was I got whitefly for the first time on my brassicas. Now I've never had whitefly on before, ever. Aphids, sure, but pretty sure in one of my videos I show my way of getting rid of aphids and what I do. My grandmother did, her mother did, and her mother did. Okay, and that is to use the foam from the soapy water. So if you use, say you put some dishwashing and put in a bucket, right, small bucket, it's this kind of size, and you slam the water into that so hard that all you get is foam, right? It's the foam you use because it doesn't drip soap into the dirt. It smothers the aphids and they're dead within seconds. You're not putting all that extra soap into the dirt because it's still in the water. You've got bubbles, yes, but you don't have the residue soap from the water, so you're not going to cause major issues to the actual soil itself. But they will do the job, and it will happen within seconds. My parents, my mum used to have some of the most beautiful rose bushes that I've ever seen in my life. She had a red rose that the petals on this rose, I mean, it was an old rose, really old rose. It was at least, they'd been in the house, that particular house. They bought it when it was built. And she'd taken that rose from their previous house that they'd been in for 10 years. And they had this house from the 1960s. I want to say 60s. They had the house from the 1960s. Probably the late 50s, actually. I think it was actually. I want to say it was 1954. No. 58. That they bought the house when it was built. And this rose went with her. Now the rose had been cutting from her own mother's roses. And she brought it over to Australia. She cultivated it, and dug it up, put it in the new house. So, you think about it, that rose, which originated in Cardiff, in the bodies because my grandmother had taken that rose from their house in Cardiff to the farm when they moved to Abergavenny and had the farm there. And then my mother took a cutting of it from the farm to Australia. It was at least 50 years old, that cutting, by the time I was around. So, at that point, oh, and the rose had originated from my Nana Lucy's wedding bouquet. She had taken a cutting from one of the roses from her wedding bouquet and cultivated it. Yeah. So that was kind of awesome. And this particular rose was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen, ever in my life. And I'm not a big flower people person. Anyone will tell you I'm not a huge flower person at all. If they're edible, cool. If they have a purpose, cool. But there are not a huge amount of flowers that I really, really want for what they are. But this particular rose had flowers on it that were that size. And the petals were like velvet. Not the crushed crap we get now, but the really old, beautifully soft velvet. And that's what this rose was like. It was the most beautiful blood red velvet with flowers on it. If I could get cutting off that, I would absolutely just, would you like it saying? The chances are limited, very, very limited. Because I know the people who bought my parents' house put an extension on the back, and I'm pretty sure that's where the rose bush was. So I don't think it's there anymore. I don't think it exists anymore. I don't think we've kept the rose. To be honest, it's not. It's something that people would go, oh yeah, it's old. Let's just get rid of it. Which kind of sucks. But you know, it is what it is. However, you know, if I could get a rose like that again, I would absolutely jump at it. Absolutely jump at it. Yeah. There's some, I mean, yeah, so that's what it is. Anywho, okay, so I touched on this earlier. These next two questions I touched on earlier in my video earlier, and I just wanted to give a better explanation. Actually, you guys are going to have to give me 2 seconds. I'm going to be right back. And yeah, I'll be right back in a couple of minutes. I need to do a little pixie room because it's necessary. Sorry about that, guys. I'm back. Right, so what kicked all this off was this morning I was looking at the brassicas, and one of the biggest cries that I've seen from people is I can't grow a cauliflower. That I've tried for years and I can't grow one. There's one of the biggest reasons for this. It's not your soil, anything like that. It's the variety that you've chosen. Now, some cauliflowers grow within 3 months, but there are many varieties that will take between 40 and 50 weeks to go from seed to harvest. And it upsets people because they don't understand. They think that they failed in some way. And you haven't failed. It's just you haven't understood the variety that you've bought. And you need to really, really understand that variety and check it out, research it, see how long it's going to take from go to woe. Try out the different varieties. If your variety still isn't producing a little tiny little bud in the middle of it, leave it in the ground. Let it overwinter. Do its thing. You'll probably find that in the spring, pardon me, you will end up with your cauliflower or your romesco, because I have the same issue with romesco. They don't pop up until the spring. So my cauliflower, my broccoli doesn't pop up until the spring, and takes up to 40 to 50 weeks. Anywhere between 40 and 50 weeks from seed to harvest. And I think this is one thing that people don't really think about and don't really realize, and it's not really spoken about. People just go, oh yeah, I'm growing it now. Oh look, 3 months later, ta-da! And you think, oh yay, woohoo! And these are the cauliflower seeds I bought from Wilco's 50p, and I didn't realize that they're not going to take 3 months, they're going to take 3/4 of a year. Or half a year, or whatever, or a year, best part of a year to grow. To a cauliflower or a brassica or a romesco or whatever, whatever you're growing brassica-wise, it can take a year, nearly a year, to get to that point. It's the same with any of your vegetables or fruit and what have you. Let's just stick with vegetables here for a second. Okay, there are some that are incredibly fast growing. Radishes, 12 weeks, go to work, and that's great. My radishes take 15 to 20 weeks. That's because I grow them for the pods. I don't grow them for the radish themselves. I want the pods because I can't buy the pods. I can buy radishes in 50p a packet, and I'm not that worried because I eat hundreds of them. And I need hundreds of them. And in the space we have, do not have enough space to grow the amount of radishes that I would consume in a year, because they are one of my favourite vegetables, and I will literally go through a packet a day, which contains anywhere between a dozen, 15, sometimes 20 radishes. So, like I said, I love them. I stir fry with them. I pickle them. I eat them raw. I will just sit there and just nom on a bag of radishes like they're popcorn, because that's what I do, and I love them. But I cannot buy the radish pods. Now, radish pods were a new thing on me. I'd seen a video on it ages ago, and I thought, you know what, actually I'm going to try that. So I did, and I will never go back to growing just radishes unless I have acreage. I mean acreage. Because I would have to have a 15-foot bed, I think. 15 foot by maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 foot. to be able to grow the amount of radishes I would consume personally in a year. And then have a separate bed for the ones that I'm going to let go to seed because I want the radish pods. Now the radish pods, for those of you guys who don't know, they taste like spicy peanuts. You want to get them when they're green, bright green, brightest green. You don't want to get them when they start to go a little bit yellow, because that's when they start to go woody and straw-like. But the radish pods themselves, you can get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these things off one radish. And I pick one, and they're amazing. And I also make curries out of them because there is a curry recipe that is just like, oh my god. And next year I will do that recipe for you just so you guys can see as soon as I get my radish pods. I kind of balls that this year out and I didn't get a very good harvest of them because I put them in a pot. This year's been very hit and miss for us for loads of different reasons. Partly because of weather, partly because of my health, partly because of what's been going on around us. So, we've had a very hit and miss kind of, and partly nature, partly a pretty kind of hit and miss year. But it's been a very big learning curve as well. Like, I'm used to growing on a quarter-acre block, half-acre block, quarter to half-acre block. That's what our gardens always were, quarter to half-acre block. And I used to grow on them. Now I'm learning, and I used to grow year-round. I'd be growing, summer crops in winter because we lived in Queensland and we could do that. So in between some of the winter stuff, we had summer crops. There were still tomatoes growing in, June, July, which is winter in Queensland. We still had tomatoes. They were going nuts. In amongst the pumpkins, which were going nuts because that's what you could do. Here is a big learning curve for me because I'm having to. The easiest way I can describe it is I am trying to grow like you would in Alaska. For me, that is the easiest way that I could get my mind around how I have to grow in this climate. Yes, we don't have the neck deep snow, but we do have an incredibly short season because our last frost date is May 10th. But our first frost date is like November 10th. So we do have a fairly short growing season if we can't grow inside. And this is our lounge room. This is the size of it. I have a 3 foot by 4 foot window in front of me. That's the cats. It's also the only window that we can really grow anything on if we wanted to start seeds inside. And as you can see, we've got the little lights on, and I had to put the top light on because it was getting so dark in here. So it's not really practical for us to start seeds indoors, apart from the fact that the year we did, which was the year before last, she ate them. She ate our cucumbers and tomato seeds. I'm thinking of growing chili this year, and I'm hoping she gets bitten, because she might actually leave things alone. Don't concern her. The other option is we have a small window in our bedroom, and we might be able to put something up there. It's just going to take reminding that it's there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. But we'll just see how we go at this point. But for the most part, we have to grow. I take the risk in around end of March, April, depending on what the long-term forecast is. And tend to start things off in the polytunnel around mid-March, early April, even though our last frost date is the 10th of May. And I try really hard to get things to go. And what survives, survives. And that's all I can say about that. You know, anything else, I can't cry over it. I can't. There's no point in crying over it. Because you just, you know, it's nature and it's going to do what it's going to do at the end of the day. So, cauliflowers, brassicas, stuff like that, understand that some of them take nearly a year to produce their heads. So if you're worried about the fact that you haven't got one yet, leave it. Leave it. Chances are that come spring, it will pop its top. And you'd be sitting there going, what was I worried about? You know, nothing to be worried about at the end of the day. It really, really isn't. Okay, now, the final thing that I wanted to touch on was when I showed the 3 goji berries I got this year, which, by the way, I was absolutely shocked by, made my year. I cannot tell you how much it made my year. Because that could pour goji berry trees, notorious divas of the garden, hate being moved, hate being touched, hate being pruned, hate being moved from place to place to place. They want to be left alone. They're a complete garbo when it comes to it. You know, I want to be alone. You know, that's a goji berry. But they want to be alone with a partner. Okay. Now, also, we have moved that goji berry 4 times in the last 2 years since we got it. It started off in a small pot. We got it as a £5 plant, £5 for 2 in Asda, I think it was. Because I think that's when I got the blackcurrant as well. So we got it, £5 for 2 plants. Both looking miserable. Both plants are looking miserable. I went, oh, goji berry! I'm so excited! Yay! Let's get it hot and stuck it in the pot. Last year we decided that we'd put all the fruit trees along the back fence behind back where the polytunnel was. Right? And we put them all there and it was great. 3 months later we were told, oh, we're going to be painting the fence, you're going to have to move them. Okay. So we had to move this pool, which was coming ballistic up the fence, was loving the fence. Had to move it, put it in their pot, which had to be a bigger pot than it had been in previously. So pot, all that, move it, and then of course its arms were going left, right, everywhere. It started doing whole Cthulhu action all over the garden with its tentacles everywhere. And all I did was literally wrap it up in itself. Because that was all I could think to do. Because we didn't have anything we could trellis it on. We had no decent canes to put it on. And we had to get it out of the ground and out of the way as soon as possible. So the goji berry got moved. Hey! How you doing, darling? How are you? It's good to see you. See, this goji berry, didn't expect it to do anything. And the only time that we ended up having any flowers from it that we knew of were the first year when I got 2 little purple flowers, but we didn't get any fruit. And that was fine. And last year, it didn't even give us flowers. It was like, yay, off. You've moved me so many times that I am just going to stick my roots in and you can all bugger off. That's basically what it said to us. So this year I wasn't really expecting anything. And because we'd had to move it again and put it in even bigger pots because it was looking very sick and it needed to have a feed and it needed more soil and it needed all sorts of things. and it was throwing a whammy at us, and I was not expecting anything. I didn't even see the flowers come off on it. So the fact that we actually ended up with 3 little goji berries off it, I was bonkers excited about. Bonkers excited. That's all I can tell you. That was just absolutely insane. So we got the goji berries came off, and I started showing it everywhere. I got goji berries! And the biggest thing that people kept going on about was the fact they'd never had a goji berry on their plant. And the only ones who'd had any luck with them were the ones that had grafted plants that were both male and female. Because goji berries need a male and a female to produce berries. And I think a lot of people don't really research that, don't really understand it. And they think, oh yeah, goji berry, that's one of them superfoods, I'm just going to grow it. Again, it goes back to doing all the research that you need to have and do to understand plants that you want them to grow so that they do the things that you want them to do, which is produce at the end of the day. Now, goji berries love being in the sunny spot. Not yet got the final growings of cabbage and cauliflower yet. Got big plants of them so far this year, so we will see. That will be awesome. That will be awesome. Because your climate is quite amazing over there in Cyprus as well, isn't it? It's kind of almost deserty, but not deserty. Because you're on the sea as well. Ashley, hello! You're lurking, that's okay. Lurk away, my darling. It's all good. It's always nice to have a lurker. So, yeah. I mean, all our brassicas out the front, not one of them has a top on them yet. Not one of them has any cauliflowers and stuff. Yeah, it's kind of, tropical sea, kind of deserty, microclimatey weirdness, but lovely. And all kinds of cool things that you could grow out there. But working with the landscape must be fun as well. I say weirdness, it's not weird for Cyprus, it's perfect for Cyprus. But don't they have like quite a thin topsoil? They do have quite a thin topsoil there, don't you? I mean, I'm just guessing from what I've seen and what I've read. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but it's, Oh, wow, that is such a So, yeah, the goji berry needs a mummy and a daddy plant. 1 male can service up to 7 females. But need to have a daddy and the mummy plants. And some plants are grafted so that they have both male and female sides to them. And that's what ours is, I believe. I could be wrong, but ours seems to be male and female. Now, we didn't have... She really does do some beautiful videos, and the landscape in New Beginnings, My Everyday Life in Rural Cyprus. Is it Laura? It's alright, darling. Totally get your internet's really slow today. keeps coming out, so not hearing it all. Sorry if I ignore any questions. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's all good. All good, darling. All groovy. So, yeah. So yeah, goji berries are one of those plants that needs to have both the male and the female counterparts. So just going in and buying one plant may not do what you want it to do. You may have to buy a second plant at the least, or maybe 3, depending, 2 or 3. A lot of the plants that you buy in the supermarket tend to be ones that have been grafted so that they have both. But that isn't always the case, and the cheaper plants may not have that situation. What's up? Come on then. Come on. Come say hello. Really? Really? She's got to be in it. She's got to be in it, haven't you? Yeah, I love you too. Why are you licking my nose, weirdo? Really? If I licked your nose, you'd be like scrabbing at me. So yeah, one of the things I just, hard to grow on solid mountain, hence Google culture, raised beds, etc. I got one of my workaway volunteers to dig 8 tree holes. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's Google culture beds and raised beds are perfect for where you are because of that situation with the soil. Being as thin and solid as it is. I love what you're doing with it. And it's one of the best, for me, it's one of the best situations that proves that Google culture really, really needs to be a thing. Especially in places where you are, like where the ground is like you have it. Hey you. Hey you. And one of these days, I'm very into hang on a second. Got a phone notification. Did Tony try and ring me? Oh, 38 minutes ago. Whoops. Oopsie daisy. He'll be on another job, so he won't be home yet. He's probably just letting me know that he's back because he had to drive to Durham today and it was snowing up there on his way back. So he was a little bit freaked out. So, but yeah, so there's a lot of plants out there like kiwis that need to have male and female, but usually one male has a harem, so you can have like 5 different plants, around 5. I mean, you can go up to 7, but I just think, I think 5 is probably your best bet. I think 7 is usually stretching it a bit far. That's my opinion from what I've been able to achieve before. My mum wanted kiwi in her garden and she didn't understand why it wasn't growing, and I said to her, well, that's because it's a male. Pistachio trees that I'm growing in the lily tunnel at the moment, I have 1 male and 2 females. I only got 3 to actually pop their heads up, and it just turns out that one of them happens to be male and the other 2 are female. My t-shirt, what does my t-shirt say? My t-shirt says, I baked you some sugar cakes. Yeah. With a little unicorn. He's very cute. And this is why my channel is not for children. have a lot of naughty t-shirts. Can't help it. It's just me. Right. Yeah, so that's what it says. That's my t-shirt. Yeah, so again, it just goes back into researching what you're doing, what you're planting, what you're wanting to plant, what your ground's like, what you're capable of doing in that ground. And if you're going to do things container-wise, like we've had to, all of our stuff's in containers pretty much, even in the polytunnel. The only part that we have that is actually in ground is that front bed there, which is a council-created flower bed, which honestly didn't have anything in it. So it did have a bush, but it was a pricker bush. And because one of our neighbours, we have a elderly neighbour who's not so great on his feet, and two, we have another neighbour that has a little wee one. So the last thing we wanted was for them to, and when I say pricker bush, I mean the thorns on them were that size. And the last thing you want is a little one to go running into that or falling into it or something like that because they're getting very exuberant. Do you know what I mean? The last thing you want is that. It's just like, no, you just don't want that. So we pulled it out. And that's where my herbs and the brassicas and the squash go most years. We put some of the tomatoes in last year because we had one of our polytunnels just blew away. Snapped into a million pieces and blew away. So we had to very quickly plant everything. We just dumped it in the front bed. Lurkio is off now. I'm going to lurk in the local park with my dog. I can just see you hiding in a big pile of, leaves, leaping out at people. Take care, sweetheart. Stay dry and stay warm, okay? We might see you when you get back. So yeah, a lot, like I said, a lot of these plants are desperately needing. I need to try and grow kiwi. They should work here, right? Tips Blue. Yes, they should grow there. Okay, so you need to have one male, and I would do 3 females. Grow your male on one side and the females down the other side or around it. So hang on, let me see. Right, so if you've got like a tunnel, all right, so say you've got a tunnel bed, like a trellis tunnely thing, which is better for them, I would put the male and have female, 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 female. Okay, so I'm going to show you my plan, right? So if I was to have kiwis where you are, I would turn it into like a trellised tunnel, and I would have the male here and the females around it. And you want to train him to go all the way across in the different directions, so he reaches all the females. It is actually. Our new one is. It's doing really, really well. One side of it has actually pulled away from where we had it pinned down, but Tanny seems to think it'll be okay because it's the side away from the wind, closest to the fence, and it's very windy here in York anyway, so it tends to do all right. We've just got to check on it, and it should be okay. I mean, if it's blown away, I'll know. I mean, because it's down the side of the house, I can't see it from here. But if when Tanya gets home and it's disappeared, I'll know, because he'll just come in and tell me. Then we'll have to go running for it. But it should be okay. It should be okay. It's. You just answered my question before you got to it. Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's to say this kind of setup. This kind of setup is what I would do. See, goji berries as well. Not only kiwis but goji berries. You could do a small trellis like this of goji berries, a smaller one, like more of a path rather than a tunnel. You could do it that way as well. Anything that's a climber that requires having a male and females, you want to set them out in a grid pattern so that you get the best possible reach from the male to the females. So if I was to grow my pistachio trees, for example, out in nature, which I won't be able to do for at least 5, maybe 7 years, because they will have to be hardy enough to be able to go out there for a start, and strong enough to hold their own. I would have the male, because I've only got one male, 2 females. If you grow from seed, when do you know which is which, female, male? The flowers. It's the flowers. Kiwis, you probably take a couple of years before you get. They do grow very, very quickly. They can grow incredibly quickly, and they can grow up to 6 feet in a couple of days if you let them. They're kind of a bit like bamboo that way. My mum used to go mad because she'd be out there every week cutting it back. And I'm like, well, you're losing all your flowers, Mum. But within a year, 2 years, you will know which is which, because one will have flowers and the other won't. Yeah, pretty much. But it's just, there is another way. I haven't done it for years. I'm just going to look it up. Kiwi, which is right. Okay, so they both get blooms, which I did actually think, because duh. Right, so I want to show you this. I don't know how to show you this. Okay, so this is how it works. On the male flower, there will be a yellow center. Okay, you will get a yellow center. And on the female flowers, you'll have the ovaries at the back, which the male flower is completely different. And you will be able to tell that they are completely different flowers when you see them, and you just go, oh, okay. Okay. But it will take a little while, obviously. But yeah, that's the best way to do it. Like, the flowers are slightly different. I thought so. I didn't know what I was talking about there for a second. Sorry. I haven't grown kiwi fruit in like years. Probably since my mum's house. So probably 2007. 2004 since I last grew kiwi fruit. Yeah. But I did used to live in New Zealand for a while, and that's why I started growing kiwi fruit, because I used to love them so much. And because I lived up in the North Island of New Zealand, and during kiwi season, we used to go to this farm shop, which was just outside Silverdale, just north of Auckland. And they used to give you, for 1 cent, if you bought like $10 worth of stuff in there, they would give you a plastic carrier bag. You'd give them 1 cent, and they would say, fill your boots. And you'd go out to these massive, giant pallet crates and just fill the bag for 1 cent. And we would be looking like kiwi fruit by the end of it. But I tell you what, it was awesome. It was really, really cool. But yeah, we loved doing that. And I used to get off the school bus, because I used to go to school in Takapuna, which is just outside of Auckland. And on my way home, where I used to live in Army Bay on the Hibiscus Coast, was this farm shop, and I'd get off there. You can start kiwi seeds whenever you really want. I mean, it's you can start them in the spring. It just depends on, the weather that you have. I wouldn't start them in the very, very cold, but yeah, probably spring. If you're going to do them indoors, it doesn't matter, because it's going to be warmer indoors anyway. But yeah, I would probably maybe in the spring. Hey, Lillian, how are you doing? Guys, if you're not following each other, please go and follow each other. Seriously. That would be awesome. It's great to see you, Lillian. It really, really is. But yeah, that's pretty much. Kiwis are easy. I would say the one thing that I have had the biggest trouble with growing over the years is passion fruit. And that's because we've had animals. Now, passion fruit, where goji berry are a diva, these guys are like the operatic version of a diva. If they are planted where the roots can be annoyed by dogs or cats, I'm really glad you're good, darling. Oh, thank you. If the roots can be, or are annoyed by, or dug at, or whatever, by dogs, cats, chickens, ducks, whatever want to go at them, they will not fruit, ever. You might get the odd flower, but they will refuse to fruit for you. So if you are going to grow passion fruit, I would seriously consider building like a cage work around them, or having like a small netting around them to protect the roots. I had friends that used to have a backpackers hostel in Orewa, just on the Hibiscus Coast, and their passion fruit, they actually had it underneath the deck where no people or anything could get into there, and it was kind of, they had a hole in it, grew up the side of the deck, so it didn't have any issues being, aggravated by animals or anything like that. And theirs was a banana passion fruit, and they're the long yellow ones with the bright orange internal fruit, and they just keep fruiting forever. They're happy because they're fruiting, and if they're not happy, then they won't fruit. You'll get flowers, but you won't get fruit. So yeah, but that where goji berries are definitely a diva of a plant. These guys just take that and they wear their tiara with pride. That's all I can tell you. They do not like their feet touched, shall we say. What's up, missus? What? 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 What are you up to? Come on then. Come on then. You coming up? You're just going to sit there and just be a pain in the butt. What? Come on then. Coming up? No? No. She's just sulking. Lillian does some amazing stuff. In fact, she's kind of convincing me to start growing yams. Because I am the kind of gardener who wants to honestly grow things that I cannot buy. It's all very well growing potatoes, but I can go down the shop and buy a bag of potatoes for £1. You know, and they fruit better in a deeper pot or better in a wider pot. I would say a deeper pot. Look, if I was going to grow a passion fruit and want it in its forever pot, I would put it in something around that wide and maybe that deep. Okay, that's what I would have my passion fruit in. That way you've got plenty of room for it to expand its root system, for you to feed it. There's plenty of room to feed it with in there. And I'd actually do a layering. So I'd actually probably almost do like a hugel culture within the pot. Does that make sense? Like I would have a layer of twigs and stuff at the bottom, some leaves and some smaller twigs, and then maybe some kitchen scraps or fermented kitchen scraps, and then fill the rest in with your compost or leaf mold, and then compost, whatever you want. But I would actually have that in there because you don't want to move you don't want to move them around a lot. So you want to have plenty of food in there for them that's going to break down over time, and then all you have to do is keep topping up the top rather than having to shift the pot itself, you know, because they just won't like it. They will be very cross about that. What are you annoyed about now? Toe, what are you doing? Where are you? What? Look, do you want some treats? Oh, yes, please, Mum. I'll have some treats. Okay, let's give her some treats, and she might leave us alone for 15 minutes. Here we go. Look, come on then. Over here. There you go. Right. Okay. So yeah, that's what I would do with passion fruit. I would put them in a really good sized container like this. Do you know the size of the Tesco's cut flower buckets? Do you know the ones I mean, Lillian? You know, Tony from Little Farmer's Farm. He has them. He's got hundreds of them. That kind of size is what I would use. It's like the size of a Tesco's cut flower bucket, which is about 30-litre bucket. But I would almost do like a hugel culture within that pot because you don't want to have to put any more food in from the bottom. You're going to have to, from that point, have to top up the compost from the top and then add a little bit of blood and bone and stuff like that to the top of it, and you know, maybe a bit of seaweed and a bit of this and that from year to year, but you've also got that feed coming from the bottom, which is what it's going to desperately need. So yeah, but anything that you can do at that point to not actually have to move them and transplant and all of this kind of stuff, because you want to have it in its forever pot, really. Yeah. I hope that answers that. What? Really? You ate them? What do you want from me? What? So there we go. So does anyone else have any questions about anything? Because, you know, this is kind of cool. I'm really enjoying this. I'm enjoying having you guys here. It's really cool because I did an hour of this on my own. He's talking his a bit hour. It was great. Oh, thank you. Is it Laura? Is it Laura? Because I want to make sure that I get your name right, darling. What? See, container gardening isn't hard, and Lillian will tell you because a lot of her garden is all container gardens. Like mine. Grow mango like passion fruit. No. Okay, mangoes are different. Now I have managed to grow mangoes here. I have. Unfortunately, they were neglected, but I have actually managed to grow a mango. Now, best way to grow a mango. Now, I will explain this process. I will do a video on it next year when the mangoes come back into season, and I will be able to buy a little box for them because I want to get a good half a dozen going, right? So, what you do is you eat your mango. Because, yes! Make sure it's a variety that you enjoy. There are so many different types of mangoes, but if you can get a variety that you really enjoy, then that's going to be half the problem solved, right? Then you want to clean the stone, and then you're going to have to very carefully down the side slice into it very carefully because you want to get the nut out of the middle, the seed out of the middle. That seed you then want to put on some damp kitchen paper, okay, and wrap it in that damp kitchen paper. Then you want to put it in a Ziploc bag and put it away in a dark place. There's a fairly warm place, but a dark place, so a linen cupboard would work. Or I had mine in a shoebox, just sitting on the shelves over here. Okay. Yeah. And then within 6 weeks, they will sprout. And once they've sprouted, you can then transplant them into a pot. But you want to put them in something like a 10-litre pot to start with because you want them to have as much growth room as possible. But you also want to have, oh, it's Dawn. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness. How embarrassment. I'm so sorry, Dawn. For some reason, I thought your name was Laura. I mean, what a numpty. I'm so sorry. But, yeah, so then you want to have it in a 10-litre pot, but you still want to have it inside, okay, because you don't want to put it outside until it's a year old, okay? If you have really, really cold winters, don't put it outside or out from under cover until it's over a year old, and then put it out in the spring so it gets used to those temperature changes, and then it'll be okay. And then you could put it in the ground, but I wouldn't actually put it in the ground until it's about 2. Once it's survived a winter, then it's fine to put in the ground. But you need to make sure that it's got plenty of feed when you put it in there. Now, Weedy Gardener, the Weedy Garden, I don't know if you guys have seen the channel, The Weedy Garden, right? Go and have a look. He actually plants a mango tree in a very specific, very amazing way that would give that plant as much chance of survival as you could possibly imagine. He actually puts a roo he accidentally hit with his car. It was an accident. It's a complete accident. It happens all the time in Australia. It was an accident. He put that underneath the mango. But he uses a very specific method of starting off with the planting of that. And so, yeah, go and have a look. Seriously, go and have a look. If you're not subscribed to the Weedy Garden, I would suggest doing that. He's got some incredibly amazing tips on the way that he does his compost. He uses a Japanese method that I can't think off the top of my head. So, yeah. But it's what he's doing is absolutely amazing. And his videos are like, what? Haven't they just said I am? Isn't it? I'll be back. Welcome back, Ash. Welcome back, Ashley. What? What are you meowing at me for? No. No. Yeah, well, you can sulk all you like. It's not happening. Right. Okay. So, there we go. But yeah, it needs a really, the way that he actually plants his fruit trees are great. New beginning, sunrise, dawn. That's how to remember. I love that. Look, now that I know, now that I have it, I will not forget. It just takes me a little, you know. I need to remove things in my pixie brain and actually file it in properly, and then it works. It just takes me a minute or six to be able to get it to work properly. Yeah. When he is back, he's back. But before he's back, he will be back. You see what I've got to work with here? I've got a screaming cat, and then I've got Ashley. Oh my god. No wonder I'm bonkers. Oh my god. What's the matter with you? What are you looking for? Oh, stop it. Really? Ugh. She's sulking. That's her sulking. I'm not lying. She's sulking. Because I'm not sitting on the couch with my feet up watching Netflix, because then she would be sitting on my lap getting all warm, and I'm not doing that. You grow pomelos. Oh my, I love pomelos. I buy a pomelo every year. I buy at least one pomelo every year. You're a living nightmare. You are not. No, you're not. Because I love them. I absolutely adore them. And I know there's people out there that can't stand them because of like the way that they are, and they're not like oranges and stuff. But I love pomelos, and I crystallize the skin. I've still got skin from 2 years ago that I crystallized, and I put it in my mixed fruit when I do that. Hang on a second. Weedy garden, darling.
Hello.
Hello.
I was speaking with Miss Radishes.
Who's calling?
This is my case, and I'm calling from Arfanoon Wiff Bloo.
I have no idea what that is. They're not ringing for the housing repair team, because they wouldn't be ringing me. They'd be ringing Tara. And they wouldn't be ringing from a mobile phone either. Okay, so Yes, weedy garden, not weedy gardener. Yeah, because his is the weedy gardener, and he doesn't see himself as the weedy gardener. What? No, Dad's not home yet. What do you mean, why? He's at work. He's at work. Yes, he is. Listen, Dad's at work. He's making money so you can have your treats. Yes. The professional at growing weeds. Rubbish. You are not. Your allotment is absolutely lovely. And I know we've all had a pretty rough road this week. What was the channel's name? Hang on a second. Hang on. I will look it up right now. I'll get you a link. Shush. Here we go. Copy. Paste. Ta-da! There you go. There's your link. All right. But go back to... Just watch all those videos. Seriously, they're worth it. The amount of information in them is incredible. Absolutely incredible. When I first found him, I started watching him from video 1. I was having a really, really bad pain day, and I sat there and watched all his videos all at once, all except for 3, because at that point he hadn't put those out yet. But I watched all of them. I sat there and watched a lot. They are incredible, and the information is so good. And there's a lot of stuff that he's doing that I want to integrate into what I'm doing, because it's just the best way to build your soil. And he has such incredible ways of building soil. And for someone like you, Dawn, that's living somewhere that is all rocks and boulders and with very little topsoil, this is the channel to watch. So you can learn how to build that up, because blew my head off. I'm not even kidding. Not even kidding. Hey, will you stop it? I have to put up with this for an hour and a half, sometimes 2 or 3 hours after Tanny goes to work. I will put up with this now until one of 2 things happens. Either she gets fed or he walks through that door. I'm not kidding. And this starts every day at 3 o'clock. Every day. But he doesn't always come home till 7. And he may not be home till 7. I was only lucky yesterday he came home at 4:30. Did you see how quick I got rid of the 2 trolls on my live yesterday? I beat my moderators at that. They're awesome. I did. That was so cool. Well done. That was so good. That was so good. Oh my goodness. So yeah, but he's a guy. If you want to learn about bio stuff to do with soil, he's the guy to learn it from. Seriously. Anyway, one of the things that I'm very interested in is reversing desertification, which is, how the world's deserts are getting bigger and the soil quality is becoming poorer. And that is one thing that I am incredibly interested in doing, is learning more about, reversing that process. You're welcome. So whether I am doing more work on that here to make sure that it doesn't happen on any land we have, or if we end up with a garden that really desperately needs fixing, these are stuff that I'm going to be looking into. It may even be that in a few years' time, you know, that we end up somewhere in Australia that we buy a cheap piece of land somewhere and use it to turn it around back into what it should be. Because European farming methods used in Australia really haven't worked. And the desert is now 75% bigger than it was 200 years ago when the first white man stepped foot in the country, you know. So, yeah. So it's something that I'm very interested in, is reversing that process and creating more wilding areas and wild farming and stuff like that, which is, yeah, something that I find really fascinating. 2 hours, that's not long. My missus has to put up with my jibber jabber all day. Your missus is awesome. She's awesome. She also knows where the rolling pin's kept, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah. So, you know, watching what you're doing, Dawn, where you are in Cyprus, you know, there's a lot of methods that are being used that I would imagine would be very useful to you where you are, to create that whole section into an oasis kind of thing, which you're already doing anyway. What? Really? What are you doing? Where are you? Why? She's playing games. What? What is the matter with you? No. She's so rude, so needy. No. 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 Oh. Sub Tim now, thanks for the link. You're welcome. You're very, very welcome. Yeah. I've got a friend in Australia. Her daughter is actually studying to be an ecologist. I want to say eco-scientist. Ecologist kind of person who is very much the same mind I am, where she wants to reverse desertification. There's a lot of different programs that are going on in Australia at the moment, including the Muldoon Institute. Like, they are teaching the methods to reverse the desertification that is happening on farmland all around the country, so that, because the droughts that they have over there are awful. Do you want to lift up to see your audience? Yeah. Yeah. What she wants is Tani to come home. She wants her dad. Hey, do you want to come over here? Do you want to come in? Are you coming? Are you coming to say hello? No. How rude. No. Yeah. She's looking at the kitchen. I think she wants her dinner early. It's not going to happen, because if I feed her now, she will be screaming at our bedroom door at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not having that. It's not happening. And this is because her daddy spoilt her on the weekend and gave her half his fish. He had fish and chips, and he gave her half his fish. And that's why she's doing this now. That's the bottom line with what she's doing. She wants her treats, and she is not going to shut up until she gets them, or he walks through that door. One or the other. She's already up there. Yeah. What? What? Anyway, guys, I think that should probably do it for today. Let me know if this time of day is okay for you guys. Maybe is 2 o'clock okay, or is 3 o'clock better? I I would normally be doing this on a Monday or Friday, maybe both. Monday morning I do a cook along video. Dads are allowed to spoil their pets. Yeah, not when mum's got to live with it for the rest of the week. Thanks. Maybe we've got better things to do than be screamed at all day. So yeah, I mean, let me know if you prefer, what day you would prefer. I mean, like, I like doing Mondays because it gets me kicked off in the morning. I didn't do yesterday as I did, obviously, because I said what happened. I was supposed to go to a job interview today. I didn't go. I did what the company had told me to do and researched their company and decided that morally and ethically I could not work for them. So I decided not to go and work for them and not waste their time with an interview because I would be sitting there being very cross. I made that decision yesterday and I looked at my email this morning and the job that I applied for through the Ministry of Justice has come back to me and said, we understand you're disabled, you may need help with or assistance for the interview. Our person will be in touch with you to find out what your needs are. So I'm like, it's also $5,000 more pay a year. And they also pay, once you've been there for 2 months, they will pay for a yearly ticket for your transport to and from work, which is incredible. And it's 9 to 5. I don't work weekends, and I can work at home if I absolutely have to. So on bad days, I will be able to still do my job. So days where I would need to use my wheelchair, which it would be very difficult for me to get on and off buses and stuff alone doing that because I'm not very in practice. Yeah, that would be really, really cool. And it's set, it's salary set. So, and I don't have to worry because it's the government job. I don't have to worry about, or rather public civil service job, or whatever you want to call it. I don't have to worry about the company going under or anything like that. And, it's partly what I do. It's part of what my training and background is, which I have small business management training. And yeah, this is, do you watch Australian channel that Josh does in Yarn Homestead? He knows his stuff, wild growing animals, etc. I haven't watched him yet. In the yard. Oh, I'll have to have a look. I will have to have a look. I've tried to You're welcome. You're welcome, Dawn. It was great to see you, actually. Really, really good to see you, darling. Thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. I really, really do. Yeah, so Monday or Friday afternoons is what I will be doing, these little chats, garden chats. But whether 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock is better for you guys, let me know. I choose 2 o'clock because I get antsy and bored and don't have anything to do, so, But Monday morning, I do one from 10 o'clock where I get in the kitchen and start doing stuff. So it's like a bit of a cook-along. Like I said, I didn't do yesterday because my son called from Australia, so I wasn't able to get online and do my live stuff at this post. But yeah, here I am. Ta-da! Okay, so I'm gonna go, guys. it's been awesome. I'd like to thank you all for being here. I've really, really appreciated it. If you feel like you've missed anything, please do go back and read it again. Watch again, because there was quite a lot of information that I poured out in the first hour. Yeah, I have a great video where I dressed up as him, me dressed up as him in my thumbnail for the video. If you want to find it, it's cool again. Awesome. Okay, so you guys have a really, really good rest of your day. Look after yourselves. Please stay safe, stay warm. Yeah. And I will see you very, very shortly. Love you guys heaps. Blessings. Say bye-bye, cat. Say bye-bye. Oh, I think that's all you're getting, guys. Bye.